Hello again. Last talk of the morning on the marketing stage. How is everyone feeling? Come on, guys, we've done this before. How's everyone feeling? Woo! Yes. It's been a very busy morning with really cool insights and things we've learned. And for me, if there was a single theme throughout everything, is the idea of connection. Connecting with each other, connecting with your inner self, finding out your essence as a brand, connecting with your consumer, and even connecting with technology to be able to have better connections in the world. So, to wrap it up, this morning, we're diving in the world of fastvertising, creating content that goes viral and shared widely in minutes, another idea to connect with people. Our next speakers will share insights on capturing these online moments, staying ahead of trends, and building content that resonates in real time. Please welcome to the stage your moderator, social news editor and presenter at BBC News, Ciara Riordan, and your speakers, co-founder and director at Afterparty Studios, Ben Doyle, aka RVBBERDUCK, and acclaimed YouTuber and co-founder of Afterparty Studios, Callux, better known as Callux. Enjoy!
Comfy chairs. Welcome everybody to this talk and thank you so much for coming. I think I'm going to go straight into it. So Callum,
yes.
Your name is Callux on YouTube. You have 4 million followers on YouTube. You've 1.4 million followers on Instagram. And you've nearly 430,000 followers on TikTok. So that's not easy to do. So how did you do it?
Well, you've just reminded me that I need to try a little bit harder on TikTok. Yeah, I have been a YouTuber for 14 years. And it came out of a love of, like, I didn't know it at the time, but I was in university studying English, Lit and Drama. And I didn't know that that would lead me to, like, well, that would mean that I would want to entertain people. And so I fell into it, dropped out of uni. My mum was not happy with me when I dropped out of uni, but then it led me to starting Call of Duty channel at the time, and there was no money in it. It was just like a love for passion and entertaining people. And then along the way, we're here 14 years later, and 8 years ago I started a company called Afterparty Studios. And it was basically at the time founded to create higher quality content on YouTube for me personally. That was the love of the brand at the beginning, and now it's morphed into this amazing thing. But that's my story. That's what brings us here today.
Wow. And then Afterparty Studios. So did you see a market for it, and what are brands looking for?
Yeah, well, like Cal says, we started off making stuff for his channel, and it was actually his mates hiring our little team. So we started off doing stuff for Cal and for brands when he had brand deals. My background is in filmmaking in the film industry, and we saw the gap for, like, higher production value. Like, growing up YouTube, it was always like shaky cameras, cats on pianos, that kind of stuff. And we realized, like, there's a necessity for production teams, and these people can't be one person, can't make all of this stuff themselves. And that was kind of when Afterparty came along, was because Cal's mates were hiring us, and we were like, there's a business here. Which now, you know, you look at YouTube now and it's full of, you see the Sidemen, Mr. Beast, all these huge production teams.
Yeah.
And yeah, when we look back, it was kind of the start of that in the YouTube industry was...
So everybody here will want to know, how do you go viral? And do you have examples that you've used in your business that you can tell us all?
Yeah. How do you go viral is a great question. And Callum's been viral way more times than anyone, I think. But I think from an Afterparty Studios perspective, with brands, stuff like that, often, like, because that used to be the brief, was like, how do we go viral? Whereas now I think brands are very good at being tapped into, like, what the culture is looking for and what's going on social platforms. And for us, like, a recent example for us was with the Sidemen cereal brand, Best Cereal, where we partnered with Luke Littler, who's the darts player, the amazing 16-year-old, now 17-year-old darts player. And we saw him on he was banging on TikTok and everywhere like that. And the brief came in from the Sidemen's team being like, we want to make an ad for the cereal brand called Best Cereal. Luke was the best person at darts at the time, and we kind of connected those dots very quickly within a week of him winning his the world championships. And 2 weeks after that, we were delivering the advert to them, which then went out and got 1 million views in the first hour. I think it was 6 million in the first 48 hours. And I think that really was just a connection of like the culture was telling us something. Like we kind of have to sit there and consume loads of stuff. Our teams are built of people that are watching the things that they want to make, and then being like, well, he's doing really good here. That brand are going to move quickly. Let's combine those two things and go and make a piece of content that we know will connect with the audience.
Now, that sounds really easy the way you say that, but it's definitely not easy because he was massive in the news at the time. How do you get somebody like that, and how do you sell yourself as, you know, a brand to get them on board? How do you turn it around so quickly? It's not easy.
No. So it's great partnerships with our clients. Like I think that you know, having someone like Callum on the team who, you know, we co-founded the business together. We're both aiming to make stuff that's really good and entertaining. I think that's what brings our clients through the door is that. And then I think it's building up the trust over years. Like that wasn't the first project we'd done with the Sidemen's team. We'd done loads before that. Built up the trust, and then through years of figuring out what they like and what turns their audience and activates them, we could then very quickly be like, well, this talent is going to work with this brand. We know the brand. We know all of the fans will connect instantly with this. And so I think then us then going to them and being like, this is the talent, this is the idea. They're like, okay, we trust you. And I think it's about building great connections between clients and production partners to be able to move super quick.
Yeah. Now, Callum, for new, I suppose people that don't know your production company and brands come to you, they want to get the younger audience, but they've never worked with kind of a youthful production company before. Do they want to hand over the trust that easily? Like, do you have to convince them?
I think it's been a constant battle over the years, and it started off really organically because it would be for my brand deals and how we kind of manage that relationship between us and the client there. So over years of almost doing it authentically for me, and for me being you know, the talent and then being the client, I think that is the best way you can start it. But there is an element of trust that brands need to take to work with creators, and it doesn't always go right. You could partner with someone, and then the next week, and you make 100 videos with them, and then the next week they can be caught up in a huge scandal because YouTubers have way less around them than the traditional stars do. But I'd say overall for us, it was about really the first few projects. We almost did them for free because you have to get into it and you have to sell the dream and show what you can do. Before you can maybe bring more people on. So yeah, it is a bit of a process, but because it happened so organically for us, it was a beautiful start.
Okay, and do the brands want you to be the face of the YouTube video, or are they open to not using you?
Yeah, I think it depends on the brief. So some of the stuff that we've done at After Party is a little bit separate now from the Callux stuff. So After Party started doing so well that I actually had to go and hire another content team because, you know, I just hired great people and then it spun up into something amazing. And the brands that we started working with were just like, okay, guys, you know what? I'll just go build this over here. My small YouTube thing is now nothing in comparison.
Wow. You know, so I work for BBC News, but there's obviously other, you know, broadcasters, and you've worked with broadcasters. And so are you making content for TV, but then they also want it on their YouTube channel?
Yeah, so we bridge the gap between like mainstream and digital. That's kind of where we position ourselves. I have such a love and a passion for old school TV adverts, advertising, broadcast TV, all of those things, what I grew up on. But we see the power through Callum, through all the YouTubers and social talent of like how we can activate huge audiences that aren't watching TV now. And so I think, yeah, often broadcasters come to us where they're looking for to access Gen Z audiences, but we make stuff in a way that isn't, you know, it's not cheap and dirty, like
Kids in bedrooms.
kids in
It's not that
bedrooms. No,
anymore.
it's huge production teams. You know, we did a shoot last week that had a crew of 50 people on it for a YouTube video. Like that is the
Wow.
norm for YouTube now. Is not uncommon. And so for us, like when a broadcaster comes to us, I think it's a smart thing for them to go and be like, how do we tap into this audience? We can put it on broadcast TV because it stands up to our quality standards there, but also it can live a life on YouTube, and that's often where, I mean, that's where the younger audiences are going to consume it. Like no 16-year-old is going to turn on the TV and go and watch that thing at that time on TV. They're going to watch it afterwards on demand or on
And,
YouTube.
sorry, the amazing thing to add there is that we've had two times now where an advert that we made and a piece of original content that we made were set to start online, and then they were both pushed on terrestrial and TV and online. Like they went further than what we'd create because
Wow.
it was an amazing partnership.
And can you tell us what that was?
I don't know.
Or maybe you can't.
No.
Okay. But it went really well.
Yeah, but it's also that thing of like, I think for brands to can now leverage like these huge production teams, high production values, like the ad that Cal's talking about started off his life as an online ad, and then it connected so well with the audience when they were looking at the back end of all the stats, which is the great bit about online, is that we can look at the metrics and view retention and all that kind of stuff, and then we're like, let's go and put this over onto broadcast. And I think that it's not looking at everything siloed anymore. Everything is one.
Yeah.
Everything, you need to make stuff that can live, that can sweat on as a pre-roll social ad, as your TV ad, as your TikTok, like, and go across the board.
Yeah, and then is that a case then you're filming and editing the ad, but then you have to think of what can you put on Instagram and TikTok, like behind the scenes and stuff like that?
No, it starts like, so the thought process has to start right at the beginning. Like, we're thinking, as soon as the brief comes in, what are the cut downs? Like, we will write separate scripts for the cut downs, separate scripts for the main thing. What's the, you know, our TikTok team will go and be like, what can we get on set in between the shots? Because if you've got a talent coming in and they're there, you, like, if Callum's on your set, you might as well use him. Why is he waiting around? Get him to play a little game, do something, spin out some
Get
more.
him to work.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's like you often get talent for such small amounts of time, and it's now commonplace on shoots for us to be like non-stop with the talent, because you might get them for an hour and you're like, well, I can get these shots, and then in between those shots play and sometimes those little TikToks will bang bigger than the ad. Like, sometimes you'll play a game and that will be the bit, because it's all about authenticity and human connection, right? Like, that's what people are connecting with, is seeing Callum uncut on set, just like messing around.
Yeah,
And sometimes that's it. I think the balance for us is like, how do you, when you're engaging with online talent, how do you make something that feels, doesn't feel like they've been placed into this script? It has to be nuanced. It has to be written for them and for their audience, so their audience see it and go, I know that the person that's written this idea knows that talent has watched some of their content.
Yeah, ad agencies and production companies could definitely learn a lot from your kind of method, I think. In terms of budgets then, like, is it cheaper to make content for just YouTube and social media than if you were putting it on television? Or you said that a crew was, what, 50 people at one point?
Yeah, it can be. It's a sliding scale, right? Like, I think it depends on the ambition of the idea. I think that we're seeing more and more TVC budgets are coming into online, which is allowing us to make bigger and better stuff. That is, the gulf is getting smaller. I think that if you want to make something like Mr. Beast's version of Squid Game, that's going to cost you $2 million, because it's just, that's the scale of it, and that's the ambition.
The crazy thing about Beast now, Jimmy, is that he did actually uploaded someone went behind the scenes with him to look at his like kit and cameras, and he had a video running live that had 100 live feeds. And if you were to do that on TV, you'd slightly script it. This kid does it for real, and I think that's the thing now. Like, it's almost surpassed TV in many respects. The frequency, how fast you can turn stuff around. And that's why people need to adapt now. And that was the beautiful gap that I think After Party has filled, because it was founded by a creator and a director and a bunch of other super, super smart people. And it's all come together as this beautiful bundle of making shit fast and making it good.
Yeah. What's the biggest project that you can talk about that you've worked on?
Are you allowed to talk about the one the other day?
No.
Okay. I shouldn't have said that, sorry.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing we've worked on is probably Revolut. We did an advert for Revolut, the bank.
Yeah.
With Munya Chihuahua. That was like a social first ad, pre-roll ad that was like, it was a 90-second that then had cut downs into the 15 seconds and 30 seconds, all that stuff. But was like basically a TV ad, but it was just written for YouTube. It was written for online, for his audience, and beyond that, it had all the Easter eggs in of his, if you watch his TikToks, which is where he's most famous for, you'd see this advert and be like, oh, he must have been involved in the writing process, which he was, and that was part of the success of it, is bringing in, I think, the game has changed. Like I say, it's no longer some of the TV stuff that I've worked on where it's just like we're swapping in and out talent as if it's like they're just talent. Whereas I think online, it has to go so much deeper into like the person, their audience, their in-jokes, because the audience are so tapped in. They've followed like Cal for 14 years. If I've watched Cal for 14 years, sitting inside his bedroom, like I know everything about him, and then I see him in an advert and I'm like, you're just reading a scripted line. I'm skipping.
Yeah.
Whereas the opportunity is to go in like with Revolut, with Munya. Munya was like, I originally had him with a glass of wine on the table. He's like, I'd have a cocktail with an umbrella in it because I like that. My audience will see that and be like, that's jokes that he's having a little like cute little cocktail. And so yeah, I think that's the opportunity that we see, is that then that gave Revolut a much deeper connection, and people stayed and watched the advert. They weren't just like waiting for the 6 seconds to be up to skip.
Yeah, and Revolut obviously became big here in the Web Summit, which is interesting. So, you know, when you say the cocktail on the table, that's about being authentic and audiences knowing you. So, Callum, like from your 14 years of experience on YouTube, like for people in the audience, what are the best practices for using YouTube that you've learned over the years?
I mean, I don't think I have very long, so I have to be very fast. But I also think that it's evolved so much over 14 years. And I think now the thing that I'm hunting for, and I think the thing that's missing because everyone's been on TikTok for so long, and since the pandemic and stuff, everything's got a bit faster. And I feel like now is the time, and has been maybe over the last year and a half, to maybe slow down and build more of an authentic connection with your audience. And I think that that's what's been missing, and I think that that's what people who have niched down into content on YouTube and across social media, they've niched down, they've found their thing, and they have built a connection with an audience that really care about them. Because I can ask all of you in the audience right now, what are the last 10 TikToks you watched? You wouldn't be able to tell me. Maybe you will, but I can't remember. So I think it's really important now for brands, for creators, to find a new connection with their audience, and I think that's what we try and do now, moving forward every single day.
And just lastly, title and SEO for YouTube. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so it depends on all different platforms, but YouTube in itself, title, thumbnail first 15 seconds. Without that, now, unfortunately, the video doesn't hit the algorithm. But what I just said is a counter to that. And I think that if you are authentic and you make great videos, they will cut through. But those are the best practices for maybe the people that aren't as deep in it. But I think best practice is make good videos and find a connection with your audience.
Perfect ending. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody for coming as well. So please put your hands together for Callum McGinley and Ben Doyle, founders of After Party Studios. Thank you.
Which way? Thanks, guys.